I'm Meredith Tehan, SVP of Sales at Cognitiv. I'm with we're a deep learning advertising platform, the first one in market. We're not going to talk about that right now, but I am around if you'd like to learn about it. We have some teammates in the audience here. I'd like to first, some of these are familiar faces to me, some are new faces, new friends. Have the guys introduce themselves and their remit, and then we'll kind of kick things off.
Thanks, I'm first. Hi guys, I'm Dave Perry, Head of Social, Digital at Paramount Plus. Been there for 3 years and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Kyle Maurer. I'm the Vice President of Digital Marketing and Gaming, in charge of all of our digital presence across the US and strategy for the globe.
Matt Fantazier, Head of Integrated Media. No, title, that's cool. And Kenvue, responsible for all of our brand media, our retail media capabilities, and data.
Everybody, I'm Michael Liu, VP Head of Innovation at Carat, which is a Dentsu media agency.
Cool. Let's kick it off. All right. So, today we're going to be talking about brand resonance and lasting loyalty through digital. We obviously know this is a very complex and complicated space. So I first want to start it off with, cultivating brand resonance and lasting loyalty is more important than ever. Of course, we have so many decisions every single day that we face as a consumer. So we know consumers engage with multiple digital touchpoints every day. Brands must navigate this. We're going to talk a little bit about the strategies, innovations, and best practices. I'd like to kick it off. Whoever wants to take it, my friends up here. Let's first define brand resonance and what that means. And then the second part of that will just be on the other side of that, lasting loyalty and what that means, I think, to you, your products, your agencies, etc. Who's it going to be?
I'll go first. So at Paramount Plus, we are a 100-year-old company, but in the streaming space, we are pretty new. So we work really hard with some people in this room on defining our brand. And ultimately, from our perspective, brand is about value and entertainment. There's so much competition, and it's so easy to come in and out. We really just have to show our value all the time with new content, but also the content we have on our platform. Between cycles are big priorities. So we just have to always be showing something is there for you. And on social, we have an opportunity to do that every single day. So we work on our big brand moments to show our exciting moments and our big spaces in media placements. But on your phone, we have the opportunity every day to make you laugh. And ultimately, when you're sitting down on the couch and you have your remote, what's going to make you press that button to turn on Paramount Plus? And that's our focus.
Well,
Yeah, I like what you said about value, because I think that plus understanding your marketplace is really the most important thing. So similar to entertainment and streaming TV in particular, the energy category has exploded in the last 2 to 3 years. There's more competitors than there ever have been for us. And the data shows that people are actually just adding more products to their basket. They're not necessarily trading one brand out for another. Right? So we've got people who buy Monster who are now buying some of these newer competitors and vice versa. So thinking about loyalty more in line with something like, instead of calling it loyalty, allegiance, right? I'm never going to be your one and only, probably. But if I can be your preferred or your favorite, that's the type of thing that drives value. And reciprocating that is then, what do I give you that you don't get from these other competitors, right? For us, that's access to all the different lifestyle pillars that we operate in. It could be looks at products before they hit the market. It could be just different exclusive opportunities to inform and co-create with the brand that competitors are not allowing. But it really is that two-way street of value. And thinking about this idea that you have to understand your marketplace, right? And understand what the competition is and what consumers are looking to do. Don't try to force them into being loyal to you to a fault, if that's just not how their decisions are made.
So my company is only about 10 months old, but we have brands that are centuries old. So former Johnson & Johnson consumer health, so brands like Johnson's, Tylenol, and Tehan. And similarly, there's more competition than ever. And there's consumer choice. And we know consumers are going to hit with more messages now. So the last stat I saw was over 5,000 marketing messages a day. And we know on different platforms they 1 to 2 seconds of attention, very quick, very fleeting. So it's really, how do you break through that, make sure that we're showing up continuing to show up as a brand for them, that it's resonant, I guess using the word answer. But we make sure that we're communicating, we're staying on the top of mind, and when they're ready to make a purchase, that they continue to think about our brands. And that's an everyday sort of job.
So I'll take this from a different perspective. I'll always find folks who work on brands themselves, and at the agency we work across a bunch of different brands from GM to Procter & Gamble to Kraft to MasterCard. The way that we sort of see it at the agency is brand resonance is just being able to have a positive emotional response from a consumer about your brand. And I think if you were to put a certain category and have all the brands on a shelf, like which one do you draw yourself to and which one do you align to? And so a lot of the work that we're trying to do is understanding about the consumer and trying to figure out what's going to be that positive reaction from them and how do we build that relationship. Because the benefit of that is, to your point, there's so many different products out there, and there's cropping up new age products. Excuse me, that how do you protect yourself over that? And a lot of that is just being top of mind and being able to be a preferred brand, no matter what comes your way, whether it be the economy or a new entrant to your space. So brand resonance is a huge, huge thing that we always have to think about for our clients as well.
Very cool. You know, what I took away from that, I'm sure some of you did, you know, the personalization and the really understanding of who the consumers are so you can meet them where they are, which is a great segue here into, you know, the challenges that we just talked about, some of the challenges, but how do we cultivate lasting loyalty in today's digital landscape?
Super hard. It's like talking all jobs. But I think because of all the things we talked about, I see it as a combination of things. I think you need to have an always-on presence because you never know when people are going to enter your category or think about your brand. So what is that foundational work that you're doing to make sure you're communicating, staying top of mind, all of that? That's important. But I think that it's how do you show that value or that you're different? How do you differentiate yourself in those tentpole moments? And I think about it as those, you know, it's not that base, but that higher impact sort of activation. And that's how we think about it from a creative standpoint at Kenvue, with really more of an always-on approach, but then we think about these tentpoles, be it events, time of year, big, you know, Super Bowl, Olympics, things like that. Or it could be something with a different type of campaign. So we're going to have something that's more lifestyle focused. We created a fake reality show for Neutrogena on TikTok called Hydro House that I saw it in, like, full disclosure, I was a little uncertain at first, but the results spoke for themselves. It had huge engagement. People were super into it. It's very different than our core use this lotion to have this moisturization or whatever. Totally different, but that's how we got someone to say, oh, that's different. You need attention. And it's how do you create those hooks throughout your marketing ecosystem to get them to draw in consumer.
Also, we think about value from a financial standpoint, but also there's the emotional value. You know, we deal with culture. We're creating content that people talk about. They want to feel part of a community or a fandom. So at Paramount, we have so many fandoms across our entire company, and we work across the aisle to bring those fandoms to Paramount Plus and really have them become brand advocates for us for content that they really passionately care about. But that goes from Paw Patrol to Pet Sematary, and those are both about pets, but they're very different. But there's an audience for everybody, and especially from like a kids and family standpoint, they thank us. Like we are an opportunity to entertain their kids and teach them at the same time, and there's not really a value you can put on that monetarily. It's emotionally. These characters are lasting and stay with them for a long time, and it's very, very. That bond is precious to us.
Yeah, I think building on what these guys were saying about the emotional component is a level of awareness, both in terms of where the communities and the fandoms, the people you're trying to reach are at, but then where your company or where your brand is, and being self-aware about that. I can remember at the beginning of COVID, sitting in my bedroom and feeling super fried between the two little kids running around. We had my wife was pregnant actually at the time. We were both working. She was trying to figure out where she was going to work. I'm working, right? Our household was chaos. Like everybody's was probably back at that time. We can all have PTSD here together.
Yeah, moment of silence.
RIP for real life. And it dawned on me as we were talking to some of the folks on the team that everybody's going through that. But I'm seeing all these campaigns that are happening in the marketplace from brands who are trying to do the kumbaya, we're all heal the world together. And we just sat down and said, that's not us. Like if we come out and try to tell everybody to hold hands and paint rainbows, that they're gonna kind of raise their eyebrow. And we said, well, what can we do? We said, well, people are freaked out. We can give them a moment of levity. We can make them laugh a little bit. We can make them feel like we're all dealing with this together, and you can still live your life. And so we mobilized, to your point of fandoms, we mobilized all of our athletes, all of our gamers, all the musicians. So you would see, Pat Casey, rest in peace, like doing wheelies on his BMX bike in his living room, right? Or you would see Nigel Houston, who's practicing kickflips and other little tricks you can do from a standstill in his kitchen. And it was a way to say, all these people are going through the same thing we're all going through, right? And we can be that boost you need, figuratively, and literally, if you want to go buy a Monster, by the way, wink, wink. And so it was a great opportunity for us to show self-awareness, but also be aware of what was happening with people. And I think if you do those two things, you get people starting to lean in more to deciding if you're something they want to keep in their pantry or on their TV on the regular.
Yeah, interesting, like adding a level of comfort. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and put over to you, Michael. What are the opportunities that exist? Utilizing innovation, maybe it's AI, technology. What exists to help boost?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's just so many different things, and sitting across a portfolio of clients, it's just, they all have their unique challenges, they all have their unique stories, and they all have their own appetite for risk. So innovation for new media methods could be like, we want to be data-driven targeting, which some like have been doing that for many, many years, or some might want to go in there and say, we want to fine-tune our own AI model to better understand our consumers and provide a tool for small business owners that we're doing. So one of our clients is going on that side of the spectrum, and there's other clients who are like, we just want to understand CTV. So this whole slew of technologies and methods and channels are pretty much what my department focuses on as, whether it's AI or AR, VR, gaming, or it could just be creator economy or even data-backed targeting. Across that, what gets you closer to your objective? Again, all of these different things are just tools for you to achieve that. It's not necessarily like we need to have this sort of technological strategy and that strategy only. It's just what gets us closer to our objective to reach our consumers, build a better brand resonance, or sell more X, Y, and Z. So there's so many different possibilities that can take you through verticalization. So even, I know everybody's going to be tired of hearing about AI, but a lot of my clients, every single one of our portfolio clients within Carat and Bids who have asked us about what they should be doing in AI, whether it's building something themselves or leveraging partners out there that already have the technologies that are existing. And that can go from consumer facing, they are seeing something that's AI generated, or using it in the back end to generate more insights or understanding more about cultural moments to target better for their strategies for content. So, I don't know if we have enough time to discuss everything that you can do, but I think right now is just a really interesting and fun time because there are different methods to be able to build a relationship with the consumer through multiple different methods.
Yeah, interesting. Now, Matt, one of the things you said, during our prep call was that we have, access to more data than ever on consumers, right? But it doesn't mean anything if you can't achieve empathy, and if you can't action on that. For that data for decisioning. So can you elaborate a little bit more on this and what that's like for your portfolio?
Yeah, so I think creative is a lot like targeting in media over the last couple of years, where you could fall into the folly of you have all this information, you can have the on paper perfect campaign, but if you're not resonating with your consumer, it doesn't actually matter. You cannot have the right message. It's for naught. I think that's where understanding the human on the other side of the equation is what's so important. And I love some of the examples. The COVID example is a great one. We had to have a lot of those same thoughts too. Of during those times, were parents concerned about baby shampoo? No, they were worried that they couldn't go to the delivery room with their partner. So we talked about that. Or we had, during the same time, we had all the brands that were talking about systemic racism and things like that. Well, how do we authentically do that for a parent, and how do we show up in a way that makes sense? What do they want to hear? What do they need to hear? And use the data to understand that. What are the conversations that are happening? What are the insights? What are people really feeling? And then go back and create that idea that's human-centric, that's consumer-centric, and then activate against that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, all the data in the world can get you only so far. You have to have human insight at the center, or else, that's what scares me about things like AI and all of that. Not that it actually scares me, but rely too much on the machine and not actually thinking about the heart of the consumer and trying to reach it.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Let's talk a little bit about competitive acquisition, gaining new customers, gaining new loyal customers. How do you identify a new loyal customer, and how do you build brand equity with that? consumer?
Well, as I was saying, like we're constantly in the latest and greatest business, which is what's the latest thing, but also what's the greatest thing. But from a latest perspective, like if you look around South by right now, there's a billboard for everything. And we really have to focus on what is the angle that's going to make this different IP resonate with you. And what you were saying, it's like there's an art and a science, not to be cliche about it, but like if you don't have both, you're kind of in big trouble. So we focus a lot on like what's the emotional angle, which is driven by data. But if all the data in the world is not going to do anything if your message doesn't resonate. So we spend a lot of time thinking about what's the best way to approach an audience. And again, on social, we have a lot of opportunities. You know, when you have one shot for one spot, you have to really get that right. But on the social side, we just have every single day to get that data to find that angle.
Yeah, I think it's finding that balance between information and entertainment value. It gets back to what you were saying about resonance just now, which is, you know, people's time is the most precious currency that they have. We all only have 24 hours in a day. We spend 6 to 8 of that sleeping. We spend another 2 to 3 eating. 2 to 3 doing other stuff. You know, and then you've got work. So what time is left, right? When you really break it down, 7 days a week. That's not changing. And we can prolong our life a little bit, but in the end, there's only so much we can do. So that's the number one thing to recognize. And then you think about, well, okay, given the proliferation of choices that I have where I spend my time, I've got to hit somebody pretty quick, right? I've got about 3 to 4 seconds to make a point. And it's about, you know, from our perspective, I've got a product to sell people. At the end of the day, Monster is not an entertainment company, so all the cool shit we do doesn't matter if it's not helping people buy more energy drinks. And at the same time, I don't want to be lost in the sea of can porn that's currently happening on Instagram, where everybody's just putting their can that they've moistened in the front and center, right? And everything kind of looks the same, and you kind of forget which one you just looked at in the scroll. So it's finding that balance, right? That's where working with creators, working with fans directly, doing different things to stand out a little bit, but still keeping, you know, true to those core insights, right? Which is, in a highly competitive category, which energy drinks are now, people want to know that you're relevant, but they also want to know what flavor is it? Does it have sugar in it? Are there any other things I might like or not like in it? Is it on sale? Where can I get it, right? Those are the things they really care about before we get to, are you cool or not? And so it's thinking about how you blend that together in your own way, I think, and that's where data and insights come from, is how are we going to stand out doing that, which everybody's trying to do.
The thing I'm going to add is, to that end, I would say the first thing you think about with creative development is assume that nobody cares. That's what I tell my team all the time. I have a funny slide with SpongeBob on it. It's like, nobody cares. We work in relatively low involvement categories, and I think it's easy to convince yourself that people are really glued to your message and they really, really want to know about the latest innovation in mouthwash or something like that. But most consumers are inherently disloyal and light consumers of the category. That's just facts. So you have to think about that consumer who is coming in and out of the category once or twice a year. In CPG, my world, not some others, it's more frequent, but that person's not that involved. And outside of my mom, who's incredibly proud of the work that we do, most people don't pay attention to all those messages. So how can you create for that person who's maybe just happening upon that, oh, I do need to buy that product while they're walking through a Target or Walmart? That's most of our sales. And I think that's a little bit of a dirty secret that folks don't like to admit to themselves. Is people aren't that loyal.
Yeah, and it gets to the, you know, how many people here have bought an energy drink? Raise your hand. How many people bought an energy drink because it advertised that it was keto-friendly or had biotin in it? Thank you. I mean, that's the point I think you're making, is it's like there's a certain message that is the core of why someone's making that decision. Nobody cares about the rest of it. They just don't. I like how you said that. If you start from that premise of, I have an uphill battle here, so I've got to just get to the point and try to, you know, make a quick kill, you're in much better shape than if you think about, but I've got all these other great things. No, you don't. You don't have a lot of other great things. You have a lot of things that you care about that nobody really gives a shit about, honestly.
One of the things too, Matt, you brought.
Did we just become best friends?
Yes. You know, your 80-20 rule that you brought up, you know, your base, but also brand building. And so it's a struggle. How do you balance that, and what does that look like?
it's a tough conversation with our marketing partners because you want to do the exciting stuff. And it kind of gets to the last point a little bit, but most of our volume and most of the messaging needs to be across our base business, kind of base messaging, stay top of mind. Make sure that we're keeping that foundation really, really strong so that when people enter that category, they're ready to buy. They're going to think about my brands. That's most of it. But the 20 is really important because that's where you can talk about new. That's innovation. That could be some of the higher impact work that we do. And that's what keeps people engaged to think, oh, because it is important for consumers to understand that we are innovative. We do have new products. We are doing interesting things and have fun messaging. That's all very important. But I would look at that as a nice to have. Those are the 10 folds. Those are the extra toppings on a Sunday. But really the core of the work, I was going to say meat and potatoes, but toppings, I think that is but the ice cream of our Sunday is really that core base foundational brand benefit, please buy this product messaging. And it works. That's what keeps the lights on.
Yeah. And one thing you said, Kyle, during prep that I thought was really interesting was that you always have your trademark brand available. You know, that can never not be on the shelf, which I think is obviously a great rule to live by. Okay, down to you, Michael. So let's talk a little bit about using, and this actually came up in the last panel as well, using paid media to get more earned media, which was a really interesting way of looking at it and expanding your brand and your reach, of course.
Yeah, I mean, just as they were just talking about it, how important it is to have brand media or even things that, drive performance, because there's so many studies out there that show that brand media drives performance and that relationship between the two is so important. And balancing that is really difficult because sometimes we cover brand and performance, and sometimes we cover brand but our client covers performance. And so we have to continually find that link between the two. But I think being able to have, again, the economy that we're in, the types of brands that are cropping up, new age brands and products that are cropping up, and just the different competition within the fragmented media scape. There's so many challenges that we need to be able to make a splash, to be able to make that brand work hard for us. And so we're always trying to find ways to be relevant in culture, and I think we just talked about culture a little bit a while ago, and how important it is to reach those communities and understand those communities. So we've been trying to go under this sort of, concept of media, creating content to create more media. And a lot of that is built around how do we use our media dollars to create a moment that allows people to create content off the back of it, to push it out to and distribute it to their audience, that creates more media essentially for us. And so you might have scrappier brands that don't have the budget, and that's a really great strategy for us, or even bigger brands who want to make a bigger splash to be able to have, an audience create for them to get more content and essentially to do the job of what media should be doing. So having these new channels like gaming, we've talked about how the gaming community is so strong, so loyal to each other and the brands that support that economy. That's just such a ripe area for many of our brands because there's so much money flowing through it at the same time, and attention being spent with it. So again, there's so many different methods, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of pick and choose the different levers that you want to use. But essentially, if it's about building brand availability inside someone's head, then you have to do things that are different that will catch their eye. Because we're going to have those foundational media things that's going to be available at the shelf whenever they need it, or whenever you say it about a brand inside of a room that everybody's phones, Facebook ads is going to start serving you today. We all know that's going to happen, but the big branded ideas, it's going to drive people to learn more about it and build that resonance sort of attraction to you.
Again, I'm lucky to work for a brand that we focus a lot on organic content, but also where that lives in concert with paid. So, we like to think the stronger our organic presence can be, the less we have to spend on paid. But we all know the industry and we know the algorithm. So we really try to figure out how do we use those insights from that organic audience to make the best paid content. And we decided back to how do we use paid content to make earned content, or earned media. We just had the Super Bowl. And, we're lucky enough to create some high placement advertising with Patrick Stewart and Peppa Pig and Hey Arnold, and it really drove so much organic conversation. But paid was certainly a part of it, but a huge percent of it was just, it resonated. And, people in the room here who helped make that happen. And, when you have that lightning in a bottle, you put the gas on, because you find something that resonates. Paid is a great way to get it even more into more hands.
I'm sure maybe even using Patrick Stewart or Hey Arnold was data back perhaps of usage of viewership on your platform or fandom around.
We look at all the data from like a nostalgic standpoint. What's the right amalgam of characters that find that audience, but also like it's just a really good idea that was executed very well and really hit a nerve, and we really rode the wave, and it was a great campaign.
All right, Dave, coming to you again. One of the things that came up, and we've actually heard as a theme today throughout a couple different panels, loyalty is a myth, right? Allegiance, affiliation, sometimes it's the right, you're shopping and the product's right there and that's why you buy it. And it's different from what you typically buy. So how important is it, for you to engage with your brand advocates and cultivate those brand communities for Paramount?
It's everything. For a company like ours with so many different, as I said, fandoms, that brand loyalty is there, and we have to treat it very, very respectfully. Halo Season 2, not a plug, just a fact. It's on right now. There's a lot of ads around town, and Season 1, the fans had a lot of things to say. And Season 2, I'm very happy to say, the fans are really behind it. And obviously that comes down to the content itself. But when you have a product that, it could be a flavor change, it could be like anything. And when you find that thing that really turns the tide from a fandom, you have to lean into that. And we've been, and also from an influencer standpoint, getting people in the space who can authentically advocate for your brand is just so critical, especially in a space like gaming or entertainment, where it's all about just that equity. And
let's go. I love that, Dave. Thank you. Let's go down the line, and Michael, you can pick one brand that you work on. But how do you stay top of mind? Because we just talked a lot about loyalty, but then there's the right time, right place, and you're traveling and you need something. So how do you how do you manage to stay top of mind? What's an example of success that you've had?
Start with me.
Anybody?
Sure. Well, one of our clients, Jack in the Box, they're a regional QSR. If you live in Texas, probably grew up eating 99-cent two tacos for 99 cents like I did. But they were releasing a 420 shake. It was called Pineapple Express. So if you know what that means.
Could you explain that?
Who doesn't?
But they had to be like a wiki type of thing. They couldn't really be too overt on it. They have a lot of people that own different franchises, so it's a franchisee business. So, but how do we find ways to be culturally relevant with a 420 Pineapple Express shake? And so there's a lot of things like brand partnerships that we did with Weed Maps, and there's things of time stamping of when we're actually putting out media. There's all these different methods and partnerships that we did that sort of kind of you knew type of thing. And I'm sure that's not a huge, secret that Pineapple Express and 420 means, whatever it means. So that was one of the things that, without having to say it, right? It's legal in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Pineapple, flavor. It's a great milkshake. But anyways, so it's how do we understand, and finding those cultural moments is difficult. It's again you're trying to find lightning in a bottle. Right? Paramount Plus did a really great job about that in the Super Bowl. But you have to find, what is your brand personality and truth? What are your interests of your customer base? It might be a subsegment of your customer base. And then what's relevant in that zeitgeist to really time it all together and tie it all together. So, if you were to have this Pineapple Express milkshake and just go about it with traditional methods, it's not going to hit the same way. You're not going to get those people that feel like they're in on that joke either to really talk about and advocate for it. So, that might be something that drives people to Jack in the Box, but also pick up a few things on the side outside of just the milkshake. And so it's really important for us to use social. It's really important for us to use those partnerships in a really smart way to generate that brand growth.
I'll give the media side of this one a way less interesting, but we'll use your example too. I would bet a week's pay that if Jack in the Box runs the same promotion every year, it'll perform better every year. That's my.
So let's do it.
So there you go. But consistency is what I would say. What we see over and over again is that the brands and the campaigns that we let run consistently and give them time to breathe and have consumers understand them, the recalls faster, they understand the messages faster, almost uniformly it works better. And I think that it's too easy to react and be like, it's not working. Maybe you need to tweak it. Maybe you need to get some feedback from your loyalists or hear what people are saying and give it a little nudge. You don't always need to recreate the wheel. And more times than not, when you're running consistent media, messaging, all of that, it just seems to work better. And it's a really less exciting answer than yours, but I think that's what I would add to your point.
Yeah, I think building on both those points, it's thinking about what you're trying to achieve, knowing your audience, which I think is what you're getting to, right, with the consistency of it. If you're not willing to experiment and fail in today's digital environment, you're not going to win, right? If you're trying to polish everything and make it perfect, you're not going to win. You have to be afraid to fail. The worst thing that probably happens is it dies in the ether of an algorithm somewhere, and no one ever sees it again, right? So to your point, if you're constantly showing up, trying things, people are going to pay attention one way or the other. But tapping your audience is another way to stay top of mind, because a lot of brands think about the need to stay top of mind as my sole responsibility. And it's not. If you have fans and followers, if you have people subscribing to your emails, if you have people listening to you, watching your shows, those are the people that can carry the message and help you stay top of mind with their networks. So thinking about that and zooming out and saying, I actually have more resources than I think I do when I'm thinking about how I stay top of mind. It's not just my Instagram account or the brand TikTok account. It's all those other people who are constantly sharing out my content, commenting on it, engaging with it, or even just putting stuff out on their own, right? And if you can consistently, to your point, focus on that more, you're creating equity with those people, and they will do more for you. I don't want to say for less, because that sounds a little dirty to say out loud, but they will. Like, they'll do it for a case of Monster. They'll do it for a hat. Legit, we do this all the time. We've done 45 product drops that have generated probably 3 to 4 million in reach in just the last 2 months. And all that is seeing people who love Monster and giving them a case of their favorite flavor. Next thing you know, they're putting it all over their socials.
Wow.
So it can be that simple.
I would say how to stay top of mind, at least for our kind of content, it's driving anticipation. You know, it's a different way of talking about how we drive our campaigns, but obviously, like, awareness campaigns are shorter and shorter these days, but like really from our trailer drop and the specific messaging we provide up until the day of premiere, it's a very intentional way of just getting people to like, oh, that thing is coming. I'm going to remember that. And then when it's out, you go large. So again, we have a different kind of point of purchase, if you will, because ultimately it's what you're doing on the couch, but like really driving that anticipation and craving that product, in our case, content, is really what we focus on.
Yeah, awesome, guys. I mean, obviously how you create lasting loyalty too for your brands. I think we do have time for a couple questions, if there are any.
Thank you. My name is Nate Nichols, founder of Carat Group. And I love that last question about sticking and building brand resonance and awareness, because it made me think about craft. All of you guys spoke very high level about different ways in. I was wondering if you had any advice about the craft at which you execute these ideas on, and with, this Pineapple Express idea, those craft and engaging your subculture that you want to speak to specifically. So what is your all's approach on getting to the right craft?
So this is a question about when we're approaching cultural moments or planning out cultural alignment with our brands, what's the craft and practice that goes behind it? I'll take a stab at it first. Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're doing a lot of due diligence around the audience that we want to reach. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum around how much data goes involved in unearthing some of these insights. But at the same time, we need to have qualitative too and reach out to the same community leaders or people who actually have equity in the space, whether it be a sub-segment of a fandom of like a show, right? Reach out to the fans, or maybe it's a certain segment of a group of people. You want to make sure you have actual representation in your team to speak to those people, which is like, no-brainer, but there's so many different companies that don't have that, right? And we've already seen that happen, a lot of blunders in that area. But there's so much craft and trying to find that right moment, because there's not going to be the one perfect thing, and you're not going to kind of just think of it in a one brainstorm. You have to kind of sharpens iron, iron sharpens iron. You really have to start thinking with other thought leaders, thought partners within the space, work with right media partners who have that expertise, and kind of put all those things together to try to find, again, we keep on saying it's lightning in the bottle, but it's such a fleeting thing to find, but there is so much respect for those people who are able to uncover those insights, easily. And it's not, I would say, like from our standpoint, it's not easy to do that, because if it was that apparent, then it would be, too easy for everybody to do. It's not worth it.
I would add to that, I'd say also having a sense of humility as you go about it. I have gaming reported to me. I haven't played video games since probably Super Mario Brothers in like 1991. So every decision we make in gaming is me looking around the room at the guys on the team, the women on the team, and saying, what do y'all think, right? Help explain it to me like a dummy that I am, and if I get it, let's do it, and let's give it a shot, right? And they're looking at it from the consumer's point of view, from the gaming community's point of view, and saying, how are we making it better for them, right? It's not about us, it's not about this, it's about ultimately the takeaway being, whatever we do in gaming, I want people to say, I'm glad Monster was there. I'm glad they did whatever they did. It made me have a better experience. It made me enjoy this moment more, right? So having that sense of humility, and we've kind of talked about that at different points today, of like, nobody gives a shit actually really about all the ingredients of your product. In the end, they don't care about how cool you're trying to be. They want to know if you're giving them what they're looking for, right? Whether it's information to buy a product or in a moment when you're trying to have an experience, it's adding something that they wouldn't have gotten had you not shown up and done that. So having that humility, I think, is also really important. Because at the end of the day, we're selling products. We're not curing cancer, right? We're not saving the environment. And when you look at it that way every day, I think you get better ideas, actually, that come out of it.
I would say we focus on premium content, but also authentic content. So like we're in the content business, so our content in some cases needs to be as premium as the show, but also we're talking directly to the consumer. So stuff shot on your phone that feels like what you would shoot as as a personal user, and that balance of the two is what really brings the quality, but also the humanity.
Do we have time for one more? Awesome. I saw a hand over here. Somebody.
Hi, Trisha Allen from Radical AI. This is for any of you. I love everything you guys are talking about, brand resonance and brand loyalty. How do you measure that? I know you're going to say ROI, but we're talking about more mid-upper funnel by the sounds of things. So what KPIs are you measuring yourself against for these initiatives?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I were to put it into words, I would say it's conversation, sentiment, right? But it's also a level of engagement in and around the different things that we're doing. So it's a bit nebulous because unfortunately not everybody, by everybody in the platforms, measures it the same way. So you got to kind of stitch it together. But that's really what we're looking at, right? At Maurer, we don't care about followers. We don't care about impressions. We don't care about views. We care about attention, right? So if we're putting content out, if I'm putting a video out, and I want you to watch that video, a 3-second view doesn't really tell me anything. How many people watched it all the way through versus how many people stopped at 10 seconds before the punchline was delivered tells me a lot. So we try to get into those types of metrics to understand, are people picking up what we're putting down? Because if they're not, then you have a problem. You have to go back and fix the problem, right? So it's getting to that attention-based metric methodology, which will be different for everybody, right? For instance, we look at it a lot differently for even our lifestyle content and the programs we run in gaming, sports, and music than we do with product content. Product content, we do look at ROI. We do multi-sell measurement with the platforms to see if there's a correlative lift in footfall, sales, and even conversion. We don't do that with lifestyle. With lifestyle, it's we put out a cool video. People watch the video. Yes or no? Did they talk about it? If they talked about it, here's something that a lot of brands don't do. When I joined Maurer, this was fun. They had a video that had the most views ever. It's the most amazing thing ever. I said, guys, have you seen the upvotes and the downvotes? It's the most downvoted thing y'all have ever done by a wide margin. So everybody's watching it, and they hate it. And I think it's that context that's really important. So thinking about those contextual metrics to say, yeah, there's the, okay, somebody viewed it at all, but how long, what did they do afterwards, what was their reaction, what was the resonance, right? Because you can have negative resonance too. I think we all tend to knee-jerk to resonance being a positive thing. You can create negative resonance, right? So thinking about it that way is kind of how we like to look at it, and it's a cocktail of stuff that, you know, depending on now what happens with the government and TikTok, we're going to change that in 3 to 4 months, right? So it's being flexible as well, I think, in what you do.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that is we measure equity. We're looking at things beyond ROI. We care a lot about ROI. We care about the equity too. That's the long-term metric. And it's really widening the attribution window for that, because I think the trap people fall into is, you know, can we get people to love us or get excited with this campaign? Probably not. it's probably going to take months, years, a lot of work, a lot of consistent execution against ideas that people care about, and showing up and like you, and constantly fine-tuning it. It takes a really long time. And so we measure things like sentiment and agreement with different attributes and overall equity scores, all the salience, all that sort of stuff. But we look at that on a longer window. So it's more of like a 6-month yearly check-in. And did you move it? And what's going on through competition? And then taking those insights back and recalibrating how we think about our approach to each brand.
I'll add on, because I think the attention was mentioned, and that's like a trigger word for me, because at the agency we actually have this product called the attention economy. For the past 5 years, we've been trying to measure the effectiveness of every type of impression you could get, whether it's a TV ad that's 30-second versus 6-second TikTok ad, or something on social versus display. And so we've worked with a lot of study partners that are doing eye tracking or doing surveys afterwards to try to quantify the impact of attention, and then might be even trying to optimize into better performing attention metrics midway through the campaign. So, it's something that we've been working on for a bit, and it's something that we've seen a lot of success with, in getting more efficient reach, more efficient brand receptivity, depending on how attentive they are to the ad and the format. So even if you're on YouTube, like, the different formats just mean completely different things to grab attention. So it's something that we've been doing for 5 years, and we are seeing tremendous results. GRPs and impression to attention. I think the next foray for a lot of people in this industry would be based by outcome. Not sure how that will fare for us, how we measure that, but attention itself is like a huge undertaking that we're really proud of.
One more. We have time for one more. Who wants it? Oh.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Michael.
Hello.
One question I had, you guys mentioned a lot about like resonance and like what you guys are measuring. Like, what sort of tools or systems, maybe machine learning, novel tech, you guys are using to actually figure out if a campaign will resonate or post-campaign has resonated? Or, curious to know new cool things.
Yeah, I think this is maybe one of the better areas if you're thinking about how AI can apply to marketing. This is one of the areas, right? Because it can be, as Michael was saying, a pretty big undertaking to take, let's say, 3 years worth of content and campaigns and performance analytics and put all that together and do something meaningful with it as things are happening, right? As you're doing your daily job, your team is moving forward on projects. So that's where I think AI can be really powerful, because you can use something like AI to take all this work you might have done over a 24, 36-month period and tell it, like, pull out for me the things that popped. Give me all the trends. Give me all the different insights I might need to start thinking about to start optimizing going forward. I'm also a big believer in don't take any platform or tool at face value, right? So whether it's Nielsen, whether it's Kantar, some of these other independent, right? They all have relationships with the platforms, and they have those relationships for a reason. They don't have those relationships to tell you that the platform sucks, right? Like, has anybody here ever gotten a third-party lift study from Google or Meta that was terrible? No. There's always some silver lining in there of why you should keep spending your money with them. So one of the things we do is we take all that, and then and sometimes this is a guesstimate, to your point, it gets tricky, but we put percentages on it. We weight it. We use a formula, and we say we're going to have our own score, our own index that brings everything to, let's say, a number, 0 through 10, right? And we're going to look at that and see if it makes sense against trends. And if it does, great, let's explore. And if it doesn't, let's recalibrate it and see if we can get something that's a little bit more in line. But it's a moving target. And I think if you embrace that iterative approach, you'll be better off. But also don't take anything anybody sells you at face value, because there's a reason they're selling it.
To add to that, I think, sure, there's a lot of great tools, machine learning and AI, but like, at least for now, humans are still helpful in telling us what they like and don't like. And
somebody needs to look at the data.
Especially from a content perspective, sure, an algorithm can tell you everyone likes this kind of content, that kind of content, but there is still that X factor about why you would greenlight a show, or what you like about a campaign, or what tagline resonates or not. So I would say for now, humans are still valuable in that process, and I think, again, obviously it's hard to scale, but so I think a mix of the two obviously is ultimately helpful at the end of the day. But if you don't have humans involved, probably doing something wrong.
And I'll amend what I just said based on what you said. I like that. You have to start with some sort of learning agenda or hypothesis. If you go into ChatGPT and go, just give me the fucking answer, it's not going to be great coming out, right? That's why the prompt matters. The human typing it in matters. The brain doing the thing that matters. You have, for now, until Skyland's here. But you need that hypothesis or that learning agenda. What am I after? What decision am I trying to make? And I have to be willing to be wrong too, right? So you have to do that first, to your point, and have human beings who are having a purpose behind this and not just having a system that says, here, do this now, do this next, do this later. Odds are some of it's going to be right, and the machines are going to get it wrong sometimes. Because the machines aren't going to factor in how things evolve in the ecosystem.
You can't fire the machines if they get it wrong.
That's true. They do have lower overhead, though, with no benefits.
Matt, everyone?
I'll just co-sign all this. I think we're going to get the hook here, so I'll help you out.
All right, cool. Well, round of applause for the best family here.